Alright then gang, so in this video I'd like to show you how to use icons and buttons and then a mixture of the two as well. So I'm right here in the center widget now, and I've stripped out the images from the last video, and we have this child property. We need to specify a widget for the child, and what we're going to do is look at icons first, and to do that we'll use the icon widget. Dead simple. So let's open this up, and the first item inside this icon widget is going to be what icon we actually want to use. Now we can use any icon from the material design library, and to access those and to see them we say icons and then dots, and then we can see all of the different icons available to us right here, the name of them and a sneak preview of how they look as well. The one I'm going to use is called airport_shuttle, which is like a little bus. So that's all I need to do. That's the first parameter, and if I save this now, then you should see that little icon right there in the center. Now we can customize this a little bit if we want to, so I could give this a color by saying color, and then that's going to be equal to colors dot light blue, for example. If I save it again, then now this is going to be light blue. Now that's tiny at the minute, so if I wanted to increase the size, I could give it a size property and set it to 50, for example, and save that, and now it's a bit bigger. Okay, so that's it. That's an icon. That's how simple it is. We just use the icon widget. The first argument is going to be the actual icon we want to use. Then we have these other different properties as well. And again, if you select one of these widgets and press Control Q while it's selected, you can see all of the different properties we can use inside the icon widget. Okay, so we've seen an icon now. Let's have a look at buttons. So there's a couple of different type of buttons. First of all, I'll show you the raised button, and by raised I mean that it sits away from the page, so we should have some kind of shadow. And inside this button, first of all, we're going to do an on pressed property, because if we don't have that, then Flutter is going to shout at us because buttons are there to be pressed, and this is a required property. So onPressed is going to equal to an anonymous function for now, meaning that it doesn't have a name, and we might come to that in a minute and I'll show you what can happen when we press a button, but for now let's just leave it blank. Now what else do we want inside this button? Well, we can specify text inside a child property. So remember, when we're nesting a widget inside a widget, we use this child property a lot of the time. Now we want text inside this raised button widget, so we're going to use the child property and then nest a text widget inside it. Right? So whatever we type in this text widget is going to appear on the button. So I'll just say click me, like so, and I'm going to save that now, and we should see a button now that says click me. Awesome. Now if we wanted to, we could open this up and we could, do a text style as well to style the text inside the button. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it as this for now, keep it nice and simple. But what I will do is add on a color property to this button, and I'm going to say colors, and then let's just use light blue again. You can choose whatever color you want. Save that, and it says click me. And if you look really closely, by the way, you can see that this is a raised button because it has a little shadow. It's raising it away from the page, giving it that kind of 3D effect. So that's a raised button. Just as easily, we can do a flat button. So I can say flat button and then save this, and then now it's going to take away that shadow. So that's the major difference there. One of them has a shadow, that's the raised button, one of them doesn't. Okay, so I said I'd come back to this onPressed property right here. So this onPressed property takes a function as a value, and inside the function, this is code that we can execute when someone presses this button. So for example, I could do something like print a statement to the console, and I'll just say you clicked me. Okay, so now if anyone ever clicks this button, then it's going to fire this function and print this to the console. Now I'm going to save it, and I'm also going to open up this run tab down here, and I'm going to go to click me, and you can see now this is printed to the console. So whenever anyone clicks on this button, now this function is going to fire. I can do it again and it happens again. Awesome. So that's buttons in a nutshell, and again, if you click on this, press Control Q, you can see all of the different properties that we can give to a button as well. So now I'd like to show you how to add an icon inside a button with some text as well. So let me now get rid of the flat button, and what I'm going to do instead is say, okay, we'll have a raised button, And then I'm going to also say after this button dot icon. And that means basically we want an icon inside this button as well. So inside this, I'm first of all going to say on pressed. I'm going to leave this as a blank function. We don't need to do anything inside it. And then under that, I'm going to do an icon property. And this needs to use the icon widget. And then the icon I want to use is going to be just the mail icon like that. Now, I'm not going to edit with the color of the icon or anything like that. I'm just going to leave it as is. The next property I'd like to do is going to be a label property. And a label property is going to be the text which sits next to the icon. So I'll just use a text widget for this, and the text can be mail me, something like that. And then finally, let's give this a color, and we'll do colors dots amber, something like that. Okay, cool. So if we save this, now it looks something like this. And again, if we wanted to customize the icon with the color and the size, we can do. Same goes for the text. We could make this white and a bit bigger, something like that. It's up to you. All the customization options are there and available to use. But anyway, that's how we add icons inside buttons like this. Now, I want to show you one more thing, and that is something called an icon button, which is basically just a small icon which can be pressed, basically. So let's get rid of this again. And finally, I'm going to say this time we want an icon button. And then inside this, we need the on pressed property first of all, which is going to be a function. We're not going to put anything inside that function for now. We know how it works now. And then underneath that, I'm going to say the icon is going to be an icon widget. And we want the icons and then dot. Let's just use alternate email, which is the @ symbol. And then after that, we'll specify a color and we'll make this amber. So we'll say colors dot amber, like so. Okay, so have we done this correct? I think so. Let me save it now. And now we can see this little @ symbol doesn't look much different from when we just had an icon. The only difference is now it's pressable and this function will fire when we press it. So let's just say print and then you clicked me, like so. Save it. And now when we click this icon, we can see you clicked me. So that's the major difference between just using an icon and an icon button. So hopefully now you've got the general idea of how to use icons and buttons. We are going to be using them a lot in our project as we go forward. So don't worry, you will get more practice and I will show you different properties we can use inside them. This is your introduction to them.